Imagine this for a second. Two of the world's biggest democracies, huge economic partners, just stop everything. No more goods, no more services, no more money flowing between the United States and India. It sounds pretty wild, right? But stick with me, because exploring this idea reveals just how tangled up their economies really are. Let's dig in.
So let's just ask the question straight up. What would actually happen to India's economy if, tomorrow, all trade with the US just stopped? We're not talking about a gradual decline, we're talking about a full-on overnight shutdown. The shockwaves would be instant and they'd be massive.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around the impact, we first have to understand the sheer size of this relationship. This isn't just some minor trade deal. For India, this is a cornerstone of its entire economic strategy on the world stage.
Check out this number. In fiscal year 2025, we saw a record-breaking $132.2 billion in trade between the two countries. And that's not just a number on a spreadsheet. It represents this huge, complex web of businesses, from giant corporations to tiny workshops, all depending on each other.
Now, this number is super important. It shows India's trade surplus with the US. In simple terms, India sells a whole lot more to the United States than it buys from them. This makes the US not just a partner, but India's single biggest customer, a really vital source of cash. And you know, it's not just about shipping boxes back and forth. American companies have poured over $70 billion of direct investment into India since 2000. This is the long-term stuff, building factories, creating jobs, and plugging India right into the middle of global supply chains. And here's a look at what's actually in those boxes. We're talking about huge sectors. You've got almost $16 billion in electrical machinery, stuff that keeps American homes and businesses running. Nearly $10 billion in gems and jewelry, which is a massive industry for Indian artisans. And another $10 billion in pharmaceuticals, life-saving medicines. You can see how entire industries are built around what the American market wants. Now, I know what you're thinking. A complete shutdown? That sounds impossible. But here's the thing. We don't have to guess what even a small disruption looks like. We just got a very real, very painful preview.
This was a real headline back in 2025 when the US suddenly slapped a huge tariff on Indian textiles. Now, this wasn't a ban, not even close. It was just a tax. And overnight, the forecast was that over 2 million jobs were immediately on the chopping block. That's the human cost right there.
And look how quickly it all fell apart. August, the tariff hits. Boom. By September, American buyers are canceling orders left and right. By October, you've got mass layoffs. And just a few weeks later, people are calling it a humanitarian crisis in these factory towns. That was the ripple effect from just one tariff in one sector. Now imagine that happening across the entire economy, all at once.
But believe it or not, the official trade numbers, they don't even tell the whole story. There's another enormous river of money flowing from the US to India, one that goes directly into people's homes.
We have to talk about something called remittances. This is just the money that Indians working abroad, especially in the US, send back home to their families. It's a totally separate channel from all that corporate trade, but it's every bit as important.
And the scale is just staggering. In 2023, India got $125 billion in these personal payments. That makes it the #1 receiver in the world. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's almost as much as all the goods and services traded with the US combined. This is the money that pays for school, for doctor's visits, for daily life for millions of families. It's a fundamental pillar of the economy.
So where's the biggest chunk of that $125 billion coming from? Well, you guessed it, the United States. And it's not even close. Nearly 28% of all that cash comes from the US. So a halt in trade wouldn't just bankrupt businesses, it would cut off a financial lifeline for countless Indian families.
Okay, so let's zoom out again. Because all these economic threads, the trade, the investment, the family remittances, they're all woven into something much, much bigger, a formal, global, strategic partnership.
This thing goes way beyond money. The US and India are working together on defense, on counterterrorism, on space exploration, on clean energy. All this high-level cooperation actually drives more economic activity and makes that stable trade relationship even more important. Their destinies, in a way, are becoming linked. The economies are tied together because the countries themselves are tied together.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. In 2023, the leaders of both nations put out a statement calling each other among the closest partners in the world. That's the kind of official language you use when an economic breakup is basically unthinkable.
So, with all that in mind, let's bring all the pieces back together.
Let's really visualize what would be lost if this entire relationship just vanished.
When you lay it out like this, you really see the different layers of connection. Yeah, that first bar, the $132 billion in trade, is the giant. But look at that second bar, $34 billion in personal money sent home from the US. That is huge. And that third bar shows billions in new investment every single year. Each one of these is a critical pillar holding the whole thing up.
So, to answer our original question, a halt in US-India trade would be an absolute catastrophe. It's not some abstract economic event. It would be a shock that would shatter corporate supply chains, cripple government partnerships, and, most importantly, it would sever the personal financial lifelines that millions of Indian families depend on every single day.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. When two countries are this deeply connected on everything from defense to technology to global security, is it even possible to pretend the economics are a separate thing? Or does it all just merge into one single, incredibly important partnership?